Today's Japanese slang term is katoyapan, which literally means single-parent bread, but is used in Japan to refer to cheap, highly caloric, and often sweet breads, like the kind you can see now floating above my face, which are generally filled with cream, raisins, chocolate chips, etc., and quite popular among Japanese children. Now, this term has become a major topic of discussion in the last 3 or 4 years on the Japanese internet, even appearing in major Japanese news. So while the meaning is quite simple, in this video I kind of want to go into the origin as well as some of the implications of the term, because a lot of people online assert that this term is quite discriminatory and state that it should not be used. So where did this term come from and why is that? Well, as you can see on Google Trends, this term really exploded in popularity in early 2023, and they don't show any interest in the phrase katoyapan before that time. But as far as anyone can tell, the first use of this term on the internet actually dates a few years earlier to this tweet here. This was posted on October 15th of 2021 by the account Fan Club, and while normally I do censor the names of small accounts, for this one, I'm going to have to reference this account a few times, and posts made by this account about katoyapan have been screenshotted and spread all across the Japanese internet and news, so the anonymity of this account is already quite gone, and the account is quite aware of this and seems to be okay with it. Anyway, in this initial post, Fan Club describes katoyapan in a way that is not discriminatory whatsoever, but rather describes it as a mikata, or like ally, of single parents, noting their frustration with price rises because the fact that this bread is quite cheap, enjoyed by children, and again, calorically dense, is all considered positives. Now, at the time, it seems like no one really paid attention to this tweet. There's only one other use of katoyapan in the year 2021, and again, we saw no interest on Google Trends in this year. However, over the next few years, katoyapan popped off on the Japanese internet, and people, of course, started looking into where the term came from, found Fan's tweet, and as they describe in the timeline here, started retweeting about it, talking about it, etc. The tweet you're looking at also, though, states that Fan Club does not believe they are the originator of this term, so they think they've heard it before, but again, there's no actual evidence of this, at least according to the Japanese internet and the tools we have to search it. This is the first use online, even if people were potentially using it here and there in speech elsewhere. So that's where it started then. But how did this term actually kind of go viral? Why were people investigating the origins of the term? Well, there are two big events that happened across the next 2 years that caused katoyapan to become not only a major word on the Japanese internet, but also a source of controversy and debate. The first of these is the TikTok that I'm going to show you now. Now, this TikTok was posted on May of 2022 and went fairly viral, getting over 20,000 likes. And in contrast to the initial post we saw, this is quite a discriminatory use of katoyapan, as they are basically mocking children, as they describe via the insulting term gaki, of single parents as basically being raised on 5 packs of cream-filled cheap bread, probably referring to this brand here. This spawned more discourse about this term and a gradual increase in it. But remember, Google Trends shows the first real spike being in January of 2023. And the reason for that is this post, because basically through this discourse from TikTok, and who knows where the TikToker found this term from, use of katoyapan on the internet gradually increased until an account decided to talk about having encountered this term online and specifically complain about the word, calling it kotoba no boryoku, or verbal violence, word violence, and calling it a goku akuwado, or like extremely cruel as possible. This tweet went extremely viral, getting over 35,000 likes, and was followed on January 6th, the very next day, by a post from another account that went even more viral, getting 43,000 likes, which summarized the whole timeline, being one of the first to highlight Fan Club's initial post, as well as the TikTok, as well as then the complaint, sort of giving a crash course on where this word came from and why people are talking about it. Long story short, all of this led to a bunch of discourse around katoyapan, which of course led to major use of katoyapan, and major debates over whether or not the term is discriminatory. Generally speaking though, from what I can see, my major recommendation is don't use this word, because there's no question that a lot of people out there are using it in a way which is meant to mock or insult single parents, to the extent that it is quite common to find major discussions of this term on the Japanese internet with tens, if not hundreds of thousands of likes from people which are specifically criticizing anyone who uses katoyapan in a negative way. The post you're looking at now, for instance, is by the influencer / chef Ryuji, who has millions of followers across multiple accounts, and he goes into a lot of really passionate detail about his frustration at a conversation he had at a nomikai drinking party, wherein someone asked, what kind of food did you eat growing up? And he describes various breads that fit into the kind of general category of katoyapan, only to hear that term, and that really upset him. as he views it as a term used by people who have no appreciation for all the hard work that single parents go into to raise their kids all by themselves with limited time and limited money. And this tweet, as you can see, got over 100,000 plus likes and millions of views, with a lot of people supporting this kind of interpretation. Many other people have gone viral for just defending the bread itself, such as this post here, which got just under 100,000 likes, noting how one of the breads, which is regularly raised as a common example of katoyapan, is actually made by hand, and requesting people show respect for the labor that goes into this sweet treat that, again, a lot of Japanese people do enjoy. Indeed, here's somebody who got 133,000 likes just for stating that this bread is delicious and that people eat it regardless of how many parents they have at home. Or this passionate defense of the bread stating that it's great and they eat it, they find it nostalgic, but they find the word itself quite scary. So all in all then, do be really careful with this term. I don't usually describe terms that can be discriminatory on this channel, but this one is one that has seen, as I mentioned, massive amounts of discourse online, so it's not like I'm digging up some obscure term that people can use maliciously on the internet. This is a word that you will see, and I hope I've explained it in a way that is fair. It is, I think, unquestionable that the original uses of this term were not meant to be discriminatory. Rather, it was by people that were raised by single parents or who were single parents who appreciated the bread. And as a result, uses of the term by people who ate it growing up, or by single parents who buy this kind of bread and appreciate that it saves them a lot of time and gives them something that their kids like, is probably not discriminatory. But for anyone else, people who did not grow up in that environment, even if they do like the bread, the term is definitely one that you should avoid because it can sound like you are looking down on people. All that said though, the term is probably one that's kind of here to stay, and you should know, because as we've seen, the amount of discourse and the amount of likes, retweets, etc. centered around this term go far beyond like almost any term I've discussed on this channel. In closing though, I should note that we are also seeing a bit of an evolution of this term as we have now entered 2026. One is that the term can be used now to refer to just any kind of sweet bread, even if it's actually expensive. This person here, for instance, uses it to describe something that costs, well, basically more than an entire bag of those breads cost just for one small order. And here someone says it's level 100 single parent bread for something that's clearly quite fancy. Now, I personally think these uses are both kind of self-aware, but it is something to pay attention to. An even more noticeable change, though, is that some people are now using katoyapan to refer to any kind of cheap bread-based food, even if it's not sweet. For instance, this person uses it to refer to pizza toast, which is great and delicious and wonderful, but while this is certainly quick, cheap, and easy to make, it does not have the sweet implication that was inherent to the early uses of katoyapan, be they positive or discriminatory. So that's what katoyapan is, that's why it's named what it is, and that's also why you shouldn't use this word basically in any circumstances, although I do think that it is a word that is useful to know given the discourse. So no joke at the end, just an honest request to please use the content that I teach you on this channel responsibly, and certainly don't mock anyone that's just doing their best to feed their family in a tough situation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.